Hi everyone, I'm very excited to see all of you here. To tell you briefly about myself, I grew up in India, did my engineering from Kanpur and did my master's from Harvard Extension School. I did a short course in management from Kellogg's, and I started my career by working in Defense Research and Development Organization as a scientist. Worked there for 4 years and then joined a couple of startups in US. And finally landed in Pega Systems. So I was with Pega when we had the old logo, and 8 years back when we decided to open the India operation, that's when I moved here to help set up this office. So I've been with Pega for almost more than 14 years now. So how about you guys? How many of you have been working on Pega technology for more than 5 years? Show of hands. Wow, almost everyone. And anybody more than 10 years of experience? Still, anybody more than 15 years of Pega experience? More than 12? Wow, great. All right, so with that, we'll get started. So about the strategic apps. So we know that Pega ships strategic apps in the area of marketing, which is how we interact with our customers, both inbound and outbound. In the area of sales and onboarding, which is about the entire sales cycle from prospect to all the way to getting the customers on board. In the area of customer service, which is how you manage or service your customers across all the channels. And then there are a lot of back-end operation applications. And all of them are powered by the Pega 7 platform. And they can run seamlessly on cloud and on-premise. And the power lies in the fact that they are all built on a unified platform. It's not a bunch of applications that are acquired and stitched together. And then we have model-driven development, which means that businesses and IT can collaborate better. We do realize that there are legacy products with which there are needs to integrate. And then all these products provide an omni-channel UX experience. And once again, it's the same product, whether you run it on cloud or on premises. So while strategic apps is our go-to-market focus, as Mike also pointed out, we love our platform, and so does the analyst. So these are the 2015 analyst reports. So the Forrester report, which was released last week in the area of BPM for digital enterprises, Pega emerged as an undisputed leader there, and same for the Gartner report for BPM-based case management platform and for IBPMS, which stands for Intelligent Business Process Management Suite. And over years, our product has evolved. Right? So we have made several enhancements in the area of social, mobile, cloud, and analytics. And with the frequent and shorter release cycles, we have been able to reduce the project time, and there are fewer hotfixes than ever. Again, a quick check. Anybody here working on version 5 of the product? Great. How many of you are on Pega 7? Excellent, great. So we have made enhancements in all the areas of the product, but I'll cover just a few of them and go in details of some of them. So Express. Mike talked about Express. So Express is our intuitive designer environment so that business and IT can quickly get started and they don't have to go through any training. Any one of you went to Pega World 2015? All right, just a few of you. So I'm pretty sure you guys got a chance to try Express. So we launched Express in 2015 June, and since then we have made several enhancements to it. So just for the benefit of everyone, I'll walk over some of the slides on how it works. So you start with an end user environment and you get an application. There are guided tours and then there are videos to help you. There are achievements, and these achievements are links to the PTM articles. Then by default, when you get started with Express, you get a team. You can invite your team members to collaborate with you. And then there are 3 work queues which are set by default. So in 7.2 version of the product, which is going to be out soon, we have added capability to have case type for basic CRUD operations, which CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete. So you can just define the case type and define the attributes that are needed for that case, and you're done. Optionally, if you think that your case has a life cycle, then you can go ahead and define the stage and the steps that are needed. And then the moment you do that, it takes you into your familiar paradigm of case designer, which is now more improved and intuitive. So it's a 3-step process. You define your case type, then you define the high-level stages that make up that case, and then the steps underneath each stage. One of the difference in 7.2 that we have introduced is that for each stage, there are a set of processes, and processes are now made up set of steps. So this is in line with best practices, and we'll showcase new case designer in our booth, so I encourage all of you to try it out and see it there. Defining data types is also more simplified. You start with the definition of the data type, define the attributes, and then you add the records right in there. You can also delegate the job of adding records to some other role. So I talked about the CRUD operation. You need the 3 screens to create, edit, and to review. And when you click on the view link on the top, you get the 3 UI forms that are behind these operations. You can straight away click on these forms to edit them. Now, if your case has stages and steps, then you can start running the case without defining these UI forms. And the first time you run your case, it shows you that you have not configured this form yet. You can go and click on the link, and your form designer pops up right in the runtime environment. You can define your fields. You can reuse some of the existing properties or define any new attributes that are needed for that step. And behind the scenes, the moment you click done, all the properties, all the sections, and the flow actions get generated for you. And you have the results right away. So all this is done in the context. Next, when you go to Settings tab, you'll see under the settings, you can define your application name, you can define the logo, and you can choose from one of the 3 available themes. And this in turn gets into your application skin. You can download your application on a single click, and a zip gets generated, and it contains all your cases, all your data, and all your UI assets. And you can then upload this zip into any other Pega 7 system. You also have a capability to generate your mobile application on a single click. So you give your application a name, provide a logo, and this is the logo that will appear on your mobile device. Include the splash screen, click on the Build App link, wait for a second for the app to get generated, and then through your mobile device, you scan the QR code of the right device type, and the app is ready to be used on your mobile phone. You can also, in 7.2, you can define your reports in the Express environment. You can define reports, you can include the columns for the fields that you have already defined. You can include some calculated values, you can define certain filters, and then you have options for various type of formats. And it supports both lists and groups. At any point of time in Express, you can switch back to Designer Studio environment on a click of a button. And all your assets, all your definition stay as it, and the experience is seamless. So an experienced user can go back to a Designer Studio environment, whereas a novice user or a business user can continue working in an Express environment. So that's about Express. Moving on, next area where we have heavily invested is mobile. So I don't think I need to explain the importance or penetration of mobile in our lives, right? Just again, since everybody is smiling, how many of you check your mobile phones, your email, or some WhatsApp or something before you go to bed? Don't be shy. Almost all of us. And I'm pretty sure we have apps installed for shopping, grocery, booking, or banking applications as well. So it's a need. And their industry provides several options for building mobile applications. You can build a mobile application using HTML5, and it is responsive, so on the mobile web browser, it renders fine on all the devices. You can also create a wrapper around your HTML5 web view, which is when it becomes a hybrid application. And the third option is to go completely custom and write native code for a specific device type. So Pega, in line with the 3 options, provides 3 options for mobile device development. So one is you stay within the model. Second option is you go native and generate custom code for device-specific code. And the third option is mashup. And let's cover all three options one by one. So model. When you define your UI within the model, basically through harnesses and section rule forms, behind the scenes UI is generated and it's cross-browser, cross-platform, cross-device. And in Pega 7, we have introduced dynamic layouts, which are div-based fluid layouts, and with the settings in the skin for the breakpoint, they automatically adjust according to the screen sizes. Sometimes you might have a consumer-facing app, and there is a need to mash up your Pega application within that consumer-facing app. And you want to include Pega UI, which is driven off of a Pega process inside your consumer app, the app which is running in an iOS or Xcode. And that's where the Mashup SDK comes into picture. So SDK provides you easy access to Pega APIs from the native code. And that's how you can easily have Pega UI within your native application. And of course, as I mentioned, the third option is to go totally custom. You write device-specific code in the language of your choice, be it Xcode or Android development tool, and then you use the SDK which is provided by Pega to invoke the Pega APIs. So to summarize our mobile architecture, at the bottom we have all the APIs, services, and integration layer. We also have mobile management, which allows development and management of your hybrid and native applications. And in the extreme right, where you see it's all model-driven UI, you can render it on any device. It will render in the mobile browser. Then you can wrap it through Pega mobile client, wherein it's like a native wrapper. The native wrapper also provides you access to some of the native features like camera, contacts, etc. You can mash up inside your native application, or you may decide to go completely custom using the Connect SDK. We have also enhanced in the past years several features in the mobile area. So for example, push notification. We have a smart shape which you can include in your flows to send a push notification to the end user. And of course, you need to make sure that when you package your mobile application, you have the right certificates and profiles bundled along with it. There are fields for location, and then we have proximity map gadget, which shows all the assignments in your proximity. The entire UI, the layouts, the grids, all the controls, they all work on mobile devices, and then they are further optimized. So we used a technology called templating, which means that instead of sending the entire markup from the server, we just send the template. And then the data is sent in the form of JSON, and the entire client generation and data binding happens on the client side. And as you just saw in the express mode, you can build the entire mobile application on a click of a button. Offline web applications, as the name suggests, we want to make sure that the site and the application is working even when the network connection is not there, in scenarios like when you are on a plane or when you're in an area where the network connectivity is limited. Now, if you think about the basic requirements that you may have for an offline application, the first thing that comes to mind is you want to make sure that the user has a seamless experience. Your UI should look identical in offline and online mode, right? And the second requirement that would come to your mind is that you want to make sure that the data that the user has captured in the offline mode is not lost. And the moment the person comes online, it's synced. And the third requirement is that you have a large data store, and that's secure. You're not worried about data security on your device. So when we designed our offline capability, we kept all these three requirements in mind. So for the very first time when an application which supports offline mode is run, the entire UI assets, all the CSS, markup, icons, everything is packaged and it's stored on the client device. And as a result, the user has a seamless experience. And when you're in offline mode, you have an indication on the top that you're working in offline mode. What we support in offline is creating a case. You can progress through a screen flow. And in 7.2, we have also added capability to progress or to advance the flow using simple decisioning shapes. So all these operations happen on the client side when you're in offline mode, and they're queued up. And the moment you come online, it sends all the requests to the server, and the things is automatically synced. In 7.2 version of the product, we have also added support for large data set. Let's say your application has a big product catalog and you want that catalog to be available offline. You can now go to the data page and mark it as large data set. What we do during the packaging for such a scenario is that the entire data set is packaged and stored in the local store in the SQLite database on the device in an encrypted manner. So in 7.2, we've also added support for offline and online applications to be part of the same apps. We do realize that not all the applications will be working in offline mode. There are scenarios and there are certain things that are not supposed to work in an offline mode. So there is a capability on the case type you can define whether this case should be working in offline mode or not. And now you can have both the case types in the same application. And if in your work list, when in offline mode, you access a case which supports offline, the case progresses fine. And if you try to access a case which doesn't support offline mode, then you get a friendly message. There is now a single place to manage all your mobile certificates and all your other offline configurations. So as I mentioned that there is a cache manifest which holds information about all the icons, images. You can specify it on this landing page. By default, again, when you render the screen for the first time, the UI figures out which all data pages it's using, and those are part of the package. But sometimes there might be data pages which are not directly referenced from the UI. And those data pages you can whitelist cut through this landing page. You can also blacklist certain data pages which you think don't make sense to capture offline. And then for large data pages or for data pages that don't change that frequently, you can list them or block them from frequent syncs. On this landing page, you can also specify all the settings for your case types, for your access group, and the requester pool settings. So another area, accessibility. Web accessibility is all about inclusive approach. You want to eliminate the barrier so that people with disability are able to access your application or website. So we've been supporting accessibility since version 5 of the product. And broadly speaking, there are two main requirements of accessibility. First is that people with visual or color blindness, they should be able to understand the entire screen through screen reader tools like JAWS. And the second is that people with motor or limb impairment, they should be able to navigate through the entire screen using keyboard-only interface without having to use the mouse. And this is actually a mandate in a lot of government organizations. Anybody here working in public sector? So would correlate it to be more. So AREA stands for Accessibility for Rich Internet Applications. And these are the new specifications which talks about accessibility for dynamic content that gets loaded through AJAX or through JavaScript. And the specifications are pretty straightforward. You have to specify role type and provide some landmarks. So in line with that, on any dynamic container, you can specify the landmark or role for that dynamic layout. And the role could be something like it's a navigation, or it's for form, or its purpose is search. Since we are using HTML5, we don't have to use divs for everything. We can use header tag for header. We can use footer tag for footer. And by default, the dynamic container in the center uses the main tag. So with the semantic markup and with the AREA attributes, you can now have capability. Again, this makes more sense for people with disabilities so that they can skip directly to the content of their interest. In accessibility mode, the screen pops up and they can skip to the main content or skip to the search immediately. Pulse. So Pulse is basically our social collaboration tool. I'll let you guys read this. Yeah, so collaboration is not about just exchanging some notes here and there, right? What Pega Pulse or Pega Social provides you capability to have your conversation right in the context. There are activity feeds that you can involve in your UI, engage in your UI, and it's contextual. You can have it in your case, or you can have it in for your entire work group. And in 7.2, we have added capabilities so that you can define your own custom context for it as well. And like any other the social media collaboration tools, it allows you to post a file, note, picture, URL, etc. So in 7.2, we have made huge investments in the Pulse product. And major changes are around the UI. UI is now more intuitive, and it works on the mobile devices as well. You can easily reference another user by using @sign. The moment you write @, it gives you suggestions of other users that you might have recently referenced. And the moment you type an initial, it filters the list accordingly. And then you can include a file or reference another image like any other post. You can also add tags to your post. You can use one of the pre-existing tags, or you can define your own tag. And on the Case Manager portal, you now have a page for tags which lists all the tags. And when you click on a tag, it shows all the cases and the Pulse posts that are referencing that tag. And there are tag clouds for recently added, most used, and recently viewed items. So I'm pretty sure you'd want to see it all in action. So don't miss the opportunity. We have the booth set up, and you can hear about them directly from the engineers who worked on it. Thank you so much. You guys were a great audience. Hope you enjoy the rest of the afternoon.